listening to somebody new, talking about singing and playing for you. Won't you cuddle up with me under these cold covers? Music for your brain.
I love it.
Yeah.
You can always tell a lot about someone's personality in a band is how they test the mic on stage.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm that guy.
That is the
Absolutely,
greatest.
I am that person.
How you test.
Yes.
The classic 1, 2. 1, 2, and then the aggressive ones.
No, you gotta do.
Check!
You gotta be like check.
Yep.
Yes.
See,
Yeah.
he's the one that will literally like two
Show
checks in,
off.
go into like, and I'm like, shit. I'm like, how can I sibilance? So
You gotta test the peaks.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Peter Piper. Pick the patch and pick
Pizza.
peppers.
Pizza.
All right. Well, we are here with Word Problems. First podcast of Cold Covers ever. And we are honored to have Word Problems as our first
Thank
guest.
you. Appreciate it.
They were kind of my, I guess, the first band that really welcomed me into this Atlanta scene. I want
Hey.
to say like 2 years ago. Because I was with a band. I was super nervous. I was playing house parties. This house party here might have been my first show.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
It was a great
At
time.
this house. It might have been
Has
my
it been
first
that long?
Atlanta
It's been
scene
like 2
show.
years. Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Yeah, it was about 2 years ago. 1.5,
Wow.
2 years ago. But y'all were so cool to me.
I'm glad,
And
dude.
like welcomed
See,
me
that's the
in.
thing too, is we feel like the more welcoming that we can be with the Atlanta music scene, like the more it's really kind of evolved into that recently too, just because there's been more of that vibe where bands want to be unique and they don't really care so much about that ego mentality of things. And so I think we've met a lot of people recently that just there's no crazy ego about people anymore.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the outside perspective looking into the music scene, is that there is that ego and that competitive nature within bands and within those people. Like, you see another drummer, you're a drummer, and you're like, I'm gonna like destroy that kid tonight. Like, I'm gonna be big.
Oh,
But like,
yeah.
it's really just like a you were so great tonight. Like, you were inspiring to
Absolutely.
me type deal, and it's so cool. It was so like weird. It was.
I think we've all grown a
shock.
lot to appreciate like the uniqueness of other bands too. I think, you know, I mean, we're not just, we're kind of, you know, getting older at this point for a lot of the Atlanta scene. You know, I'm 30, so I've seen a lot of these bands come and go. But the thing right now about Atlanta is I don't think there's a lot of bands that sound like each other anymore. I think everybody kind of has understood how to make their thing unique. And I don't think that they're too worried about it being good so much as they're worried about it being authentic. And I think that's really the most important thing about Atlanta bands right now.
That is true. And
Yeah,
you see that a lot with the shows.
It feels like it's less about like, oh, I'm the best at doing this thing, and more like, oh, I'm doing my own thing.
Or yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm a
Now
part
you're
of
just
something
the best
good.
at doing your own thing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
No one
Everybody has their own thing now.
Yeah, no one
It's
can
so
do it like
Yeah,
you.
I think the only
Yeah.
criticism that anybody really gets nowadays that's really valid, even in the Atlanta scene, is just that you sound like this or that, which isn't even necessarily like a negative thing. It's just more of like a, you know, a point towards like, hey, this might have been done already.
And
But,
like,
But
there's
that's
a lot
also
of bands
something
that do
that-
that great. So
Some people just tend to like jump towards that. They want to relate it to something.
right, yeah.
That's like a
Honestly, and that
human's
works
need, yeah.
great for some bands too. Like I think even for us, you know, we do a lot of, you know, shifty music as far as just like kind of throwing people for a loop, but it still at some point sounds like another band to someone, you know? I mean, every band really has that. It's really just how you capitalize on how to do that.
yeah, I feel like when I first heard y'all, I think my comparison was y'all sound like a mix between Every Time I Die and Brand New.
Every Time I Die. Keith Buckley is my favorite vocalist, hands down. Like I learned how to play guitar by learning Gutter Phenomenon. I was one of those.
Such a great album.
It's really funny because I was one of those drop D guitarists. You know what I mean? Like I was one of those guys that I tuned my guitar to drop D and I never tuned it back for like 5 years, 6 years. And then like after I stopped, like I was in a couple of bands and I was in mostly hardcore bands and post-hardcore bands, but really what brought me back to doing music and eventually brought me and Devin together and made us kind of form Word Problems and come back to having Michael in the band and everything like this is just because I started learning how to play guitar in standard again. You know, honestly, like it's a whole different ballgame, and really it changes how you look at music. And so really when I started learning standard again, the main thing that I was trying to do was play like Green Day songs, you know, because Green Day was one of those bands that I was just like, how do they sound like that by being so simple? And it's because they use the chord patterns they do. It's not all just power chords. It's major chords, minor chords. They do different things. And the more that I kind of dwelled on that and really brought that to the center of what I was doing, the more I realized how to start writing songs that were more accessible like that still had that sort of post-hardcore feel of the whole drop D guitarist type feel, you know, how you can kind of do runs quickly and all that.
For sure. So
that's what brought us back.
The big question that every band hates answering, I want to bring to y'all. What do y'all classify yourselves as?
Punk rock.
We talked about this recently.
Punk rock.
We talked about this recently. We
You
tried.
say punk rock, but you have a lot of screaming, which a lot of people don't associate
True.
with punk rock.
Well, I mean,
Hardcore punk.
Hardcore was
Exactly.
was the basis of real punk. You know, when people talk about like screaming music, I think they really misunderstand the whole point of screaming.
I
you
agree
know,
completely.
Punk is something that is always going to be just the most passionate form of music, in my opinion. Everything that I love that says something about the person that's writing it or says something about the world in general is usually a punk song.
Punk is less of a genre and more of a mentality.
Exactly.
Like it really is.
Well, and we recently talked about we tried very hard to write songs that are within the technicality of what might be considered a math rock band, but it's because of
So when you say math rock for our layman listeners that don't exactly listen to a bunch
It's
of
like
math
tempo
rock,
changes, time signature changes.
there's a million qualifiers that you
Yeah.
could use to classify something as math rock, but even bands like Goo Goo Dolls on their biggest record do things that
I
are math
love
rock
Goo Goo Dolls.
in essence.
No joke.
So yeah, Dizzy Up the Girl, dude, one of my top records of the 90s for sure. I love 90s music. But you know, they do a lot of 3/4/4/4 changes on that record, and it's brilliant, and it's not something that the layman is even going to hear. But in my view,
Yeah,
of
that's
music,
kind of what we want to do, right? We don't.
Exactly.
We don't want to like be like, oh, we're this technical like band and it's hard to follow.
and that was what we talked about
Yeah.
recently. Is we don't want to come off as a math rock band. We don't want to outwardly say to you, "Hey, we're a math rock band. We do math rock." We're a punk rock band at heart. We play punk rock songs that just happen to have details that move that way. And the more that we kind of think of it that way, I think the more we're onto more music. Like we've been writing a lot of new stuff even beyond the LP that we're trying to put out, which is called Something Concrete, which will hopefully be out this year, 2020.
Something concrete. Pick it up.
I'm hoping by summer. But yeah, we've been tracking it at the house. We have 10 songs that are coming out on that record that we really believe in, but we've even still beyond that been writing on that premise of where we're just a punk rock band that happens to do these things that some people might consider detailed or catch on to as like progressive music.
Yeah, that's the huge balance, is like balancing that 4/4 groove that'll get everyone in the crowd involved, that they can bop to, that they can dance to.
Yeah.
With that technicality that the musicians in your audience are going to want to hear.
Right.
So that they can keep coming back for more over and
Right.
over. So like you look past the hooks and you're getting those specific fine details of the technicality and the crazy changes and like all this like time and work that these bands put into these
Yeah.
hardcore progressive music,
Well,
which
and
is
it's-
what makes those progressive bands so like they're the slow burn songs where the first time you listen to them you're like, I don't really understand what I just heard, but you listen
Right.
to it 20 times and you're like, this is my favorite thing I've ever heard, because
Right.
there's so much detail in there.
Well, and there's so many bands too where I think, you know, they'll derive the focus of their entire instrumentation on one instrument or on the vocalist or on anything else. And I think we've gotten really lucky in the regards that we're only a trio, but I think we all bring enough to the table as far as vocals. Like Michael does vocals on a song we have called For When You Forget You're Trying Harder. That's honestly, we've had a lot of people in the crowd be like, "Oh, I realized you weren't singing, but there was vocals," and I was looking at the drummer and he's playing and singing, and that
Which I still don't understand how anyone does.
right, it's
took
not
a while.
easy.
It took a really
He's-
long time.
Look, one of the
I have
first
no idea how
practices
you
where
do it.
I realized he was going to be our like permanent drummer, he was playing drums and doing mouth trumpet. And like doing this jazz thing, and I was like, "That's our drummer for sure." I don't even have to hear him sing.
But not
Like,
only just like playing guitar and singing as well, but also going through the different time signatures and also keeping that straight in your head also while singing.
well,
That's
and
just-
I think the key is, and for any songwriters out there who are struggling with this, the
So
key
don't think
is
about it so
don't
much.
think about just the beats and where the music is hitting. Because if I'm playing a note 90% of the time, if I'm down strumming, I'm hitting a note with my voice. You know, it's right. It's just about figuring out how to work with it. I think the number one thing is, I mean, this is the first band where I've ever done this, where I'm out front and I'm kind of doing
Same.
this. And you know, yeah, I know it's a thing like, we'll talk while we're playing, but even that sometimes is difficult just depending on what you're playing. We have a new song that's on the new record called Plot Armor that we're even still kind of working out how to do live because it's just it's a really interesting song, and it moves in such a way where almost all the hits are on offbeats. So I'm trying to still kind of fit my vocals over it, get it right. But we're in that home stretch of writing the album where it's kind of like, crunch time. So we're making it happen.
That's a good way to better yourself as a musician, though, as you're writing, is challenging yourself. Like you're saying, like doing stuff in the studio that you cannot do live,
right?
But it forces you to learn how to do that live.
Absolutely.
Whereas otherwise you wouldn't do that. You don't want to sit down and do that boring practice of just like, I'm playing and singing at the same time and doing the stupid rudiments. And,
well, we don't like to compromise either.
Yeah.
If there's a part where we're like, this instrumentation might be too difficult, I would rather compromise on the vocal part than the instrumentation personally, just because I think it's easier to supplement a good vocal part if you're making it simpler rather than an instrument part.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus, with you guys being a trio, like there's you don't have another guitarist you can like rely on in the back.
Yeah.
If, like something happens.
Oh, and we've had moments too. Trust me. Live, it's not an easy thing to be a trio every time. There's definitely, we're a punk rock band. We live our lives. It's something where we'll have a couple of beers at a show and maybe we'll not hit every note right. But I think the ultimate, I'm going to try and skip past that one as fast as I can. But I think really the crowd response, we draw a lot of energy from people being into our stuff, and we're really surprised at how much people really like our music because we didn't write it for them. We wrote it for us. This first batch, at least.
Yeah, it's always weird, like writing something in just like in your bedroom or in your house, and then you finally like show it to people and you get like a positive response, because that's not always what you're expecting.
Yeah, it's a lot to like build yourself up emotionally to share that with someone else.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've spent so much time on it,
and it's a lot of these songs, we'll like, we don't live, Devin used to live in Conyers, like he lived like far from us, so every Thursday we practice. That's just been we probably had, if I were to count it, we've been a band for about 2 years, so we've had 112 or so practices probably. So we consistently, I think that's been the key too. Any new bands, take this into account, practice weekly, and if not more than that.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's about having a routine. Your brain will thank you for it. It helps you to write songs.
You'll become the master of
you
your
don't have
own
to
craft.
spend hours and hours and hours sitting there on random days doing this stuff if you just have a dedicated time to do it. I promise you it'll make it
a lot of people don't like to think of it this way, but this is kind of a business, you know what I mean? Like making music, you have to treat it as such. Like there's so much that goes into not only the songwriting process like you're talking about and perfecting those hits and getting good at your craft, but also someone's here. My God. And we're back.
This is what we get for doing it in the living room.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
We kind of asked for it.
Sorry. That's what she said to myself. Don't put that on for sure.
Yeah, so, all right. 3-piece, business is tough. You guys are doing it yourselves.
Yeah.
Go figure, the type A personality lead singers picking up the reins on that.
No.
Real out of the
this
box.
Took work.
Original idea
work.
there.
Is there a type C?
Type C?
I feel like
it's called basis, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what I am.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the number one thing is that I think I got tired of just telling myself I couldn't do things, and I'm just at the point where, the more you try something, the more you're going to succeed at it. You never really fail. You just kind of start over with more knowledge. So it's a matter of really, I spent a long time not doing music in bands, and then I decided I really needed to do it again. And me and Devin linked up. We tried a couple of bands that didn't really work out, and then it was sort of a realization where it was like, once we get the music right, we're really going to have to get the marketing and the merch right, because we don't want to just do this for nothing, At least we want to go out and make the money that we kind of spent bettering ourselves and getting our gear right and all this stuff back.
Y'all's merch is sick, by the way.
Thank you.
I've always loved y'all's shirts.
Yeah,
like,
we just
designs and everything.
wordproblems.bigcartel.com. Definitely go there, order online. We will send it to you. We just got a new run of awesome shirts. I will have to get some of those out.
I gotta say, I just saw the sneak preview of the new logo.
Oh yeah,
for
the
the
new
new album.
Yeah.
And
oh
it
yeah.
looks sick.
Oh yeah, the new
Y'all
album.
are gonna want it.
So we really wanted to commission someone at first, but I think I took a photo and we kind of manipulated it. And I think the way that it turned out really worked out better than we could have hoped for anything else. So once we kind of had an idea of how that was going to work, it was just like, no, we'll just do it all DIY. It's
So everything you've had is
all the
DIY.
art. Yeah, all the art for the album we did just based on a photo that I had and another photo that I took at a show and just kind of threw it together on.
So y'all are artists on the side as well.
Oh yeah,
Like
Michael.
Mike, I think you are, right?
A little bit.
He won't admit it.
I've been trying to get back into drawing again. I used to do it in high school a lot.
Yeah.
But
He did actually I recorded this, so I'm going to be super selfish and be I recorded it. But this is really just a Michael plug right here.
Mastermind.
Michael does a band called Sabretooth Saber,
Saber.
which you can find on Bandcamp and Spotify.
Yeah, this is cool like grindcore. It was only take 20 minutes of your time. Yeah.
I'll let
How
you
many songs in 20 minutes?
What is it?
true
12,
grindcore,
12
right?
songs?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Some of them are 3 minutes. There's not, it's variety. It's all over the place. He basically over the span of 6 months, 8 months, sat there and recorded guitars, and then I mixed it. He did
And just
vocals.
pooped out the vocals, and then
Pooped them right out his mouth.
Yeah, I drew the art for that. That's why we brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he drew the art for it. We kind of slapped it together. But
I did one of our shirts too.
Yeah.
I did the
So
stuck
the
one.
stuck
one?
shirt,
Oh,
the
the stuck?
red
Yeah,
shirt.
the
if
one
you've
with,
seen
like,
it.
the-
I'll get some of them out. You
like
guys
the
will get a
mark.
shirt. You guys will get one of the new shirts.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'll get them out and I'll show you guys.
Yeah,
later.
you're
We can
screaming on
film
that Sabretooth Saber is insane.
God.
Like, it is unreal.
Thanks, man.
it. We did all that with FL
Y'all-
Studio.
All three sing or scream, right?
Well, yeah,
Or
we
two?
all do
2.5?
vocals. We all do vocals on the record. It's more like yelling.
Devin does vocals. He won't
Devin
admit
does
it.
vocals.
What do you do, Devin?
I'm very shy.
What do you do? He yells and screams
Yeah,
too.
I have
He won't
some.
admit
I have
it.
some
You have some
yelling
skills.
gang vocals.
Devin goes, "I don't care" with us.
Yeah.
On Screw Loose
and
Behavior.
Screw Loose
Yeah.
and Yes Friends when we have those breaks.
Yeah,
Okay.
plenty of that.
Well, I sympathize. I'm the only one in my band that doesn't sing or is not allowed to sing.
Yeah. Oh, really?
They-
Yeah.
No, I
No,
cannot.
Devin's allowed to sing. He yells with us. That's usually like the thing. But
So how do y'all pick who's going to scream what part
We
in your
don't. And
songs
whoever,
between y'all?
it's kind of like whoever just kind of writes the lyrics first and has the idea first.
I write a
It's
lot
like,
of
oh, you
lyrics.
got it. And then if like maybe he writes a part and he's like, I can't really like play this guitar part and sing
Yeah.
it. At the
That's
same
what I
time.
was gonna say.
That's where I like come in. We're like, oh, maybe I can kind of fill in.
that's
that
usually
space.
what it
Like,
is. It's
a lot of
mostly
people
like
have a lot of pride when they write their own
Nah,
lyrics,
nah.
but y'all are cool to like pass them back and forth.
yeah, we do pass
Yeah.
the baton a little bit. Trying harder. The lyrics he sings are the ones he wrote.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other ones are the ones I wrote. So I mean, when we split it, usually it's just a matter of melodically and harmonically trying to please the song. I think we all
Because
have
y'all
a
have
very
different tones, right?
Yeah, right. We do different things. Michael's a really good again, Sabretooth Saber. He's a really good
It's
vocalist.
Crazy.
But he also sings really good harmony. So in a song that we have that's new called Conversations with Houseplants, there's more harmony than we've ever done on any song.
Wow.
So
I wanna do
there's
more of that too.
Yeah.
So y'all are gonna go more in a singing, more melodic route.
Don't quote us on that.
I don't think
No.
we
or
want
it's
to
just
define
kind of
it.
fly by the seat of your pants.
I
Like
think
it just
maybe-
happened to be.
I
that
think
way.
maybe the new songs, what I could say of them are they're more structured in the sense that they're more just a whole idea.
Okay.
A lot of our more
That'll come with
new
maturity.
stuff kind of moves between textures, I would say, but the new stuff is kind of all one thought, or there's very little like parts that change as an afterthought. It's more just all one movement that kind of goes from start to end. Not necessarily ballads, just things that kind
Gotcha.
of move.
Yeah.
It's all one energy instead of
sure.
kind of shifting as hard as we have. you
I think
know?
we'd be pissed if Word Problem started singing ballads.
Oh yeah, no. I know. Well, some of our songs don't have choruses. Trying Harder is a pretty good ballad, but it's it's just kind of it's our version of that always. I don't think we'll ever compromise on kind of what our sound is. There's songs that we've written that are not Word Problem songs that we're like, that's not Word Problems, and it's different.
Yeah.
That
you
takes a lot of maturity to
just
do.
a feel.
Yeah.
Just like throwing away songs is so hard for
Right.
people to do.
Oh, they don't get thrown
And
away.
you
Trust
have
me.
to do
They're
that.
somewhere. They all go somewhere.
Oh yeah, no,
But,
we have a
you
million
know.
side projects we're gonna. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Ultimately, I think we're all our own artists at heart, and I think that's what draws us to Word Problems in general, is just because we're all able to make those creative decisions. We actually, for the EP that's up, for the 3 songs that are up on Spotify, we recorded 5. We cut 2.
Wow.
We felt that those songs deserved to be on the LP and deserved to have like a full
Yeah.
quality recording. So we were just kind of like, let's let's cut it and let's make sure that the next time we do this, they get what they deserve, and that's what really.
And are you re-recording any of the 3 songs?
So everything that we have so far on Spotify, we're having all re-recorded. So 3 of the 10 songs on the LP will be
so
Yes
good.
Friends, Stuck, and Screw Loose, and they sound great so far. We haven't even had them mixed yet. So
Yeah, so y'all can listen to y'all stuff on Bandcamp, Spotify, all that, right?
yeah,
And
so
the
it's
first EP is called Epinephrine.
Epinephrine, the Epinephrine EP. Yeah. So we're on Spotify. You can just search Word Problems. We're on Instagram at Word Problems ATL. You can find us on Facebook at the same, tag Word Problems ATL. YouTube Word Problems. All of it's pretty universal, so you can find us just by
It's
searching
extremely
us.
easy to find you guys.
Yeah, it's surprising,
is.
isn't it? Because it's such we actually get messages on Facebook asking us from people, in foreign countries, like, hey, can you give me an example of a word problem? It's like, nope, not that kind of page,
And you
guys.
just send them your music. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Easy.
they're like, oh, this is angry.
Got to start
a bigger
writing
problem than I
riddles
thought.
for your song titles.
No, we got to be very blatant that we are not a math page.
No, but that's such a
We could be.
great band name. It's
Yeah,
unreal.
we could
Like,
do both.
Thank you.
It's such an easy, down the middle, but says so much band name.
Right.
It took
That are
us a
so
while.
hard to find.
It's
took us a
yeah,
while
we
to
had a
come to
bunch
that.
of different names in mind. I'm not even going to bring any
No.
of them up because some of them ended up being song titles and
It's,
stuff.
it's a good band name. You won't have any word problems with it.
Yeah,
Well, I feel
yeah.
like-
I catch myself saying "word" all the time, and people will look at me and say "problems." I'm like,
Problems.
There you go. No, but that's kind of a compliment, though.
yeah, exactly. You got to have an inside joke in your band. I feel
Oh
like
my
all the
God.
best bands
You
I've
can't
been
take
in
yourself seriously.
have
like that.
inside jokes about the stupid name.
But that's
that they
also
have.
one thing. It sticks in your
Yeah, you
head.
got to click.
It does.
Yeah.
You got to have that
Clicks.
click.
Word
It really
problems.
does. It's perfect for it,
Thanks.
and it's I don't know.
Stroke
So
of genius,
I want to get
apparently.
into that EP that is on
Mhm.
Spotify a
Sure.
little bit because everyone can hear that. So my favorite personally was Stuck.
All right.
And it was just the weirdness of it and so many different metal genres and punk genres and rock genres blended into one song that I just loved about it. And y'all both scream on it separately, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. You can definitely hear the dynamic change
Yeah.
between y'all's vocals.
There's a lot of shiftiness on that whole the whole EP. We do a lot
Yeah.
of back and forth.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Devin actually was the one who brought that song to us.
That's
and-
what I love about
So,
stuff.
so
Yeah.
that bass line I actually wrote to kind of sound sort of like a Mayday Parade type song, and it did not come out like that. And I'm happy it didn't.
Yeah, I did not
Devin's
hear that.
intentions never end up
No.
coming through because I don't think
That bass riff is sick, though.
Thank you.
It is
Thank
so
you.
sick.
I love
it's
that
so
bass riff.
groovy.
Yeah.
And your bass tone on it is so...
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Sick.
I think the thing that we decided on when we were writing that song was that it was like, let's go Jaws theme as hell with this. Like, let's really make it sound ominous. And that was just like where we went with it. It was like, all right, how can we make this sound like as ominous as possible?
It does. It has that when you just have so many
imminent
yeah,
problems.
Exactly.
That's what
But-
it sounds like. You
and
are
there's-
about to have issues.
There really is so much space in it that you guys create, which
Yeah.
is so hard to do as a new band or
I think
just
the
for an
heavier you
EP.
get, the more expectation there is to have like 1,000 notes in
Yeah,
your songs.
and you always feel the need to
Yeah.
fill space, but even
Yeah.
and as a 3-piece, you always feel that need to we have to be as big as possible. But sometimes to be that big, you have to take stuff away.
Yeah.
And just really, you guys drop it out so well, and it's so mature of y'all to do what you do in that song,
Thank
which
you.
is why I think I
Well,
like it so much.
It's about using majors and minors and not so much focusing on trying to be this technical overbearing thing. I think number one, we want to have fun while we're playing our songs, and there's a fine line between having fun and doing too much.
Yeah.
And there's been plenty of songs where we've been working on, especially even Bored to Death, the one that we played. I had to compromise with myself a lot on that, with how much we wanted to do versus how it sounded.
Yeah.
And that song, when we wrote it, it was all screaming, and then eventually we found the right melodies to sing on it, and got the rhythms right. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of self-compromise that comes with writing, especially in our genre. You have to know what's too much and what's not enough, and when to pull back a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that do you guys feel pressured to, I guess, stay in your genre or your lane within metal, because that is such a polarizing thing within metal that fans honestly get into these heated discussions
Oh,
of
yeah.
what these bands are and how their genre is better than certain other genres. Like hardcore people hate the non-core people. Like,
Right.
It is crazy. Like,
Right.
it is so heated and weird.
I think we all come from different enough places to where that really isn't a thought for us so much as like, I don't know. I don't want to say in an ego way that I'm the main songwriter, but I think I feel like I'm probably the person that brings the most ideas to the I'm the buckshot approach guy.
My song ideas get rejected.
Well, sorry.
So now we know why.
You've also come up with some of the best ideas we've had too. So, but the thing is that I'm kind of the buckshot approach guy, and I think that really most of our songs don't really come from the idea of sounding like us, but the idea of a really good innovative song that I've heard, or a couple of ideas that I've heard where I've been like, oh, those are two completely separate ideas. What if they were to somehow come together? And I'll sit and kind of work on something until just something original comes to light from it.
So you take things out of context and put them in a new context.
And
That's a lot of what art is.
Yeah, and there's a quote by a guy, Jim Jarmusch. He says, in so many words, he says, art's not where you take it from, it's where you take it to,
Exactly.
Originality is non-existent, authenticity is invaluable.
Yeah, you can't. It's impossible to be original because you're always having that inspiration, whether or not you realize it from something that you're seeing, whether it be nature, whether it be someone else picking before you.
Yeah. And I think it's important, really, if you're going to be an authentic artist, just own that. Like know what you're listening to, know who your influences are, and if anything, pump them up, because why would you want to hide it? Like, this is where it came from. You're working so hard on this thing that you believe in. Why not make people believe in it in the same way you do, and give them understanding of how it came to be?
Yeah. Understand that. All right. So back to Stuck. I wanted to ask Mike about his drum part in that one dropout section where he just starts going all over the toms. How did you come up with that? Where did you come up with that? Was it a jammy thing?
It was kind of a jammy thing. If you'll notice, what's that Fall Out Boy? That drum part is like accidentally a ripoff of.
Oh gosh.
It's like.
That was like
stuck. It kind of goes like
that we heard that.
And so it's kind of like sugar
going
down.
So a little bit of Fall Out Boy.
There's a little bit of that. But yeah, well, that's actually like there's if you listen,
weird.
If you listen to enough of my drum parts, you'll notice I kind of do kind of the same things.
It's like the Western version of Sugar We're Going Down. That's like what that drum part is. Honestly, it's kind of like the Western.
I've just kind of had that. A lot of the drum parts that I play, I've kind of like just have. Like I feel like a lot of drummers do this, where they just have a bunch of beats in their repertoire.
It's your personality.
Yeah.
We tried a lot of drummers, me and Devin. Like we were in other bands that were different names that never worked out before Word Problems. Like Michael was the final piece of this puzzle. Like we started doing this 2 years ago, but me and Devin started doing this three and a half years ago, and like with different sets of musicians and just things that just really did not work out the way that we planned them. And eventually that was when I was like, I gotta learn how to like do guitar right and sing right and do all this shit. And then we started jamming with Michael, and that was like that we started writing Yes Friends and Stuck and Screw Loose, and that was like
we wrote those first 3 songs in the first 3 practices. I think, where we at least started those.
And it was I think by the time we had practiced for 3 months, we had about 5 songs. So the first 5 songs we had were probably about finished by
that new band energy.
It's
exciting.
So many ideas in your head.
Yeah. But then you also end up right after that. You're like, okay, now what? You know what I mean?
It's hard to like after you get those after that first one, those first few songs. It's hard to pick up where you're going to go. When you start
writing with detail, it becomes an idea of is our entire main thing writing with detail, or like what is our thing? You know what I mean? Like it's hard to grasp exactly what a band's thing is when they're really kind of coming out the rip and they have no real. I don't know how to explain like. Those first 5 songs, it felt almost like they were all something a little different to us at first. And so when we started writing new songs after that, it was hard to really grasp where we should go. But I think just continuing to do it and really keeping at it, eventually we found new riffs. And that was what Bored to Death was. It was like the introduction into those, like that new set of songs that we were going to be working on. So when you listen to the LP, there's kind of like those first 5 where we really like got them out of the way kind of quick. And then there's like the other 5 where it was like either they came to be and like we kind of worked them out or they just kind of like were eventually word problem songs.
So it sounds like y'all have a really wide approach of how you come to have your songs. It's like super riff jam heavy, or just like one person coming up with something on the spot, or all three of you coming up with something together, which is kind of cool,
right?
Because a lot of bands just have like a formula and they stick to it, but it sounds like y'all are just,
I think music
whatever
comes
happens.
I think music comes first is our ultimate approach, and then I think after that, that's when we really start to think about what the song is about and the lyrics and stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the Nirvana approach. I mean, that's how they did it. I mean, they would come up with vowels, that he wanted to get in there at certain times.
And it's like I said,
and then just fake words in there, and people would be like, "What do your songs mean?" And he's like, "Nothing at all."
And
like,
when
I
you
thought
sit
the
on
words
your
sounded
music
good.
like that, when you sit on like where the rhythms are, and you start to think about it like that, where you can just kind of vocalize where you're hitting hard.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot easier to write in math time signatures too. You know, when you're starting to write in like 5/4 and stuff, it's like, okay, well, you got ba 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 ba. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's where your vocals should be.
Yeah, and it's hard to write lyrics in 7/8 time.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
like trying to come up with something
And
romantic or poetic or anything.
And I'm not gonna lie, that's part of why we have so much screaming too, is because it becomes easier. But I think the approach of working backwards, where we're making the music the technical thing that is people are paying attention to, it's easier to simplify vocals. It's easier to make a catchy vocal by simplifying it. And then what I'll do is I'll usually start screaming first, and then I'll find the melodies as I keep doing that. So it's kind of a backwards approach, but when we do it, it works. So
that makes sense. But it's a cool way to go about it. I mean, there's no one way to do it, right?
I gotta ask, are you gonna have any more tapping solos?
Oh, I'm sure at some point. Yeah, we'll do some wild stuff. Plot Armor, the one of the songs I was talking about, has got some wild stuff in it. So definitely expect that one to be one of the crazier songs. It's only about 1.5 minutes long, but it sounds like some sort of weird. I don't even know, like some sort of weird demonization of Dance Gavin Dance, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 1.5 songs though. They go nuts live though.
Yeah, there's some nutty riffage in that one. That one's probably closer to what you're talking about at the end of Stuck. Yeah, that one's got a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
That one's got a lot of that stuff.
That's what I love about that song, man. It just goes all over the place. You have that like weird like early 2000s like and then you go into some tapping solo and you drop out in the groovy
We're a
bass.
feedback band.
All
We
over
like
the place,
feedback.
man. Yeah.
We like feedback and stuff like
Loud
that. Yeah.
noises.
All over the place.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where are we at on time?
We're at 43 minutes.
Okay.
Hey.
You guys want
Not
to
bad.
flip it, forge it, or fuck it? Are you ready for it?
Yeah, let's do it, dude. We're going to do a song of ours called Bored to Death, which is off our new record, Something Concrete, which will be out hopefully by summer of 2020.
So, Forge It. They picked Forge It. So, let me explain this a little bit. It's our first episode. We are going to ask each band that we interview, flip it, forge it, or fuck it. And flip it is going to be play one of your songs in a different genre. Forge it is going to be walk us through a song that hasn't been released, that is not on the internet, your fans can't hear. So walk us through the process, like play it for us live, and kind of, talk about that song for us a little bit. And then fuck it is just a free jam. So we want unique performances from our bands that come on here.
Absolutely.
We don't want people to hear the same thing that they've heard before, but in a worse recording quality. So we want unique material for these bands, and we want unique material from Word Problems.
Awesome.
They picked Forge It, which is a bold choice, which I love.
Yeah.
Playing a song that you haven't released yet.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not out yet, so it's a nice little preview.
I love
for
it.
Everybody.
I
You're
love
the
it.
first here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
First
exclusive.
episode, we're getting our first Forge It.
Hey.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
I didn't think that any band would do this, to be honest.
You did not know Word Problems very well.
There you go. Well, now we do,
So-
hopefully, after this interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is
So-
now a
so
Cold
yeah.
Covers exclusive.
And the thing about Bored to Death too is I think that was part of why we picked that one too, is just that song. I mean, really, when I think about Bored to Death, that song has a really simple premise. The idea for that title was just like, there's a lot of people out there who just don't even realize how fucking bored they are with their existence, and they just like, to the point where people just want to kill themselves for no reason. Like, there's so many people out there that feel useless and stupid and broken down before they even started, and it's like, make an attempt. You know what I mean? Like that. I get so frustrated with that, and I do it to myself. Like everybody, I think, has that self-defeating mentality somewhere in them. But that's really what that song is about. And when we came up with that was an acoustic riff that I had, and it was just a C chord, and it was just this weird 5/4 plucking pattern I kept doing with this C chord and the B major diminished or whatever chord I'm using there. But the more we kind of jammed on that, and I brought it to practice, and we started playing with it. Michael came up with this amazing drum part. Devin started playing it, and it became this like amazing, like full sounding weird metal song, which was the weirdest thing ever because it was this acoustic picking part.
Fucking slaps.
So
Most
we
importantly.
just started working on that more and more, threw some parts that were in 7 in there, made the chorus in 7, did some math stuff, and voila, that came together. But that song is really just about how it kind of sticks in my skull every time I feel self-defeated or anything like that. You never want to blame yourself for your failures. You always, if you fail, at least you got something from it. And if you blame yourself, it should be because you didn't learn your lesson or you didn't learn what you needed to from the situation. That should be the only reason you ever blame yourself for failing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good message to send to people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get that, these metal bands are all so negative. And here you go with a positive message. What's up with that?
I think a lot of people are just talking about their experiences, and a lot of people who have negative experiences turn them into positive ones.
Yeah.
And so I think, there's a lot of people out there. People like to act like, people don't change, but people go through a lot of negative experiences and really end up better for them. And I think that's something that people don't talk about enough.
For real, we don't let people fail anymore.
Yeah.
Especially right now.
Absolutely.
In this culture, we're just like,
everyone's
you
in safety
messed
net
up,
culture.
you're done forever. And it's like so unfair.
Yeah.
Especially with how young some of these people are failing.
Absolutely.
Like, let people live. Like, let people experience, let people learn, let people change, let people like develop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And a lot of that takes failure.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
So,
you
like,
have
you learn
to fail.
from failure.
It's a huge thing to everybody. I mean, if you look at any major athlete, you can you can look up millions of quotes by huge people. Michael Jordan, he talks about I failed a million times before I succeeded.
Exactly.
There's a
Didn't
million
make his
things
high
like
school
that.
team. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So and I'm from Chicago, so of course I know the Jordan quotes.
There you go. All right,
yeah.
so here we go. Word Problems doing Forge It,
Hey.
and they will be doing their new song "Bored to Death."
Devin,
Here.
you want to get in on this?
What's up, guys?
He's too shy.
Devin, announce the song. This is
Yeah,
We're
announce the
playing
song.
Bored to Death. Fuck you.
All right, Bored to Death. Here we go. Word Problems.